Hello. All right, I know it's been a couple weeks since the end of the show. It's actually been, as of right now when I'm recording this, it's been pretty much a full month since the June show. And I took like a week off, just to gather my thoughts and everything, and was getting ready to film this video, and then I realized Joe went on vacation, so he wasn't gonna be here to edit. So he's back. I'm ready to go. So we're gonna go into what prep was like, how I think it went. We're gonna kind of do like a prep. We're gonna do a 2024 season recap. So that is the goal today. I have my notes so I don't forget anything. I mean, I probably will, but so I hopefully don't forget anything. So what I want to talk about today, like overall how the prep went, some of the numbers, so like where my calories were, weight, where I started with everything like that, and really just how it felt to prep myself and how I think the season itself went. And then I want to go over some things that I changed my mind about since prepping myself. And then finally, just going over what I think needs improved upon, and then also judges' feedback. So let's just jump in. So to recap, I started prep on January 1st, and this was the start of my 5th ever prep, and I had a show date in mind of April 20th for my first show, and then I had a couple other shows picked out that ended up changing. So we kind of changed in the process, and I ended up doing a May 25th show in Missouri, in Kansas City, and then I did a June 1st show a week later in Omaha, Nebraska. So I ended up doing 3 shows. I prepped from January 1st to June 1st. So I had a 20-week prep is what it ended up being. And this time I did decide to coach myself. I had never done this before. All of my previous preps, I did hire a prep coach. So started with my weight around like 138, 136, like within that range. And I ended up hitting the stage. My lowest weight that I ever got was about 121. And before my June 1st show, I weighed in at 122 point something. So stage weight was around 122, 123. So that's a total of what? I didn't get this written down. I should have written this down. 13 to 15 pounds I lost in that 20 weeks. And so I started, and I had decided that I didn't want to lose my running fitness. So I was going to make running my cardio, and I was going to keep it at a decent amount of miles. And the hope was that I would keep my running base fitness. I knew I would lose my speed because I wasn't doing speed work. And I knew that while not ideal, I really just wanted to keep my running. Like I know like a lot of other bodybuilding, everything would be like, don't run, you shouldn't have your cardio so high. But I wanted to keep that running fitness, so I wasn't starting from scratch after prep. And my body held up really well, so it went great. But so where we started was I started with a 3 mile, a 5 mile, a 3 mile, and a 9 mile run. Kind of flubbed up my numbers. I looked at my notes wrong. So let's go into where I was starting, where I went to. Okay, so calories started around 1950 to 2050 with my high days, which was my long run days, around 2250. And I started with running 3 miles, a 5 mile, a 3 mile, and a 9 mile run. And those 2250, the 2200, the 2300 calories was for my long run days. So that's where we started, about 20 miles, 22 miles, because my 1 mile days per week, no additional running, no additional cardio at all, and at around 2000 calories on average. So if we divvied it all up, it was about 2000 calories on average for the week. And then about 6 weeks in, so around February 6th, or about 5 weeks in, I did add a couple miles to one day, so that brought it up to an extra day of 3 miles. So I was up to 5 runs per week instead of the 4 that I started out with in January. And then while I wasn't seeing as much progress as I wanted to, and I feel like I'm someone where we need adjustments fairly often, I kind of adjust to things fairly quickly, I feel like. Some people, you can stay at the same calories, same cardio for quite a long time. I mean, I was 5 weeks in and we were changing, which isn't bad. There are some people that are even like 2 weeks in and we have to change. So not terrible. Added in the run, but then the week after that, we dropped calories down to 1,800. So we were at around like eating 1,950, 2,000 on most days other than long run day. We dropped that down to 18. And when I say we, I mean me. I don't know why I keep saying we, but me and myself, I guess. So that's where we were around February, give or take. And honestly, I didn't take the world's best notes for my own prep. Take great notes for clients. I have dates with all of when our changes are. I didn't take very good notes during prep, so I had to like go back and kind of like look at my Net Diary, so the food app, and like see where calories changed. That's a learning experience for me, is take better notes on my own prep if I'm gonna prep myself, dum-dum. And then let's see, in March we dropped down to 1,700 calories. 700 calories, oh my gosh, down to 1,700 calories. But I did keep some higher days, so kept the long run. Long run stayed the same. It stayed 2,300 calories the entire duration of prep. So from week 1 to week 20, it was 2,200 to 2,300 calories on my long run days, no matter what. But then 17, I was starting to get kind of low for me, and I switched. I did keep the day before my run calories a bit higher, so I kept those at about 19. So it was Sunday through Thursday. I was at 17, then 19, then 22 to 23. So calories were higher on the 2 days around my really long run, and I did have a leg day on Fridays plus some cardio, so that was a harder day as well. And then we also added, so this is in March, the start of March 10th, give or take. I also added about a half a mile to my runs, but not my long run. So it went from 3, 3, 5, 9 to 3.5, 5.5, 3.5. And then I had a 3 that I didn't add, and then I didn't add to the 9. So I added half a mile, which is about 5 minutes worth of cardio to those days. Then I was like, you know what, let's add in some workout classes instead of something like an extra run or something. Hated it. I did like 2 classes, and they were kind of like plyo-y style stuff, and they were exhausting on my legs and tiring, but I really wasn't expending that much energy altogether. So for how tired I was and how much it was making my legs fatigued, it wasn't paying off. I was like, okay, that was like less technical work, like from a heart rate and calorie burn standpoint, than just going for a run, but it was much more abusive to my legs because there was so much jumping and stuff like that. So it was just really tiring on my legs and breaking them down. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted fresh legs, and I didn't want to be extra tired, and I was looking to get some extra calorie burn. And I know that's not what cardio is about. It's not for calorie burn, but I was in prep. That was the goal. I needed to burn some extra. I needed to grow my output. And I realized classes were not the way it was going to happen. So I'm like, okay, well, what can I add that's not going to be hard to recover from and give me a little bit more output? I didn't need anything crazy. I just wanted a little more output. And what I ended up doing was I added in some cardio. So what I mean by quote unquote cardio is I added in some incline walks on the treadmill. And these were walks. They weren't getting my heart rate up to like the 130s. It wasn't a zone 2 walk. It was just a walk. It was a little bit more aggressive than just a walk outside. It was like having to do a walk for time up a hill is essentially what it was. A brisk walk up a hill. That's what it was. Heart rate would get up a bit, but not above like a zone 1. So I wasn't even close to a zone 2. And what I did for that is on Mondays, I did a 40 to 60 minute walk. It typically ended up being 40 minutes, and I did the same thing on Wednesdays. So I had 2 40-minute walks, and then on my rest days, so Thursday I didn't have a run, and Sundays I didn't have a run, so I added in a 60-minute incline walk. And like I said, these were not cardio, they were cardio. And then I did up my step minimum to 15,000 steps, which I'm having a tough time breaking that habit because I just got so used to it. Yeah, so that's where the cardio went. And then the calories stayed at about that 17 going into the April show. And then we were thinking I was looking really good. So I will put up the pictures of my check-ins before the April show. And we had gone to an event where they talked about like they wanted a softer look for bikini, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, okay, I think I'm lean enough for what they're asking. And so we decided to stop being in a deficit, and I bumped my calories back up to 19 on all days, except for the long run day, which was 22. So I bumped that up and kept cardio the same. I wanted to stop losing weight to go into the April show, and I did that for 2 weeks before the show, like at April 8th. And just spoiler alert, which I'll talk about this a little bit later, is I wasn't lean enough. I was really unhappy with my look. I saw pictures of me on stage. I was very, very displeased with my physique. I was grumpy after the show. I wasn't happy with it. I was like, I definitely could have done better. Like I was more than a little disappointed in myself. I'm like, because it wasn't like I was grinding. I could have continued to diet. The feedback from that, which I'll just quickly go into it here because it was pretty useless feedback. Get leaner and bigger shoulders and glutes. Like, okay, thanks for that generic feedback. But it was already what I already knew. I didn't come in lean enough. So I was pretty disappointed with that showing. And so we decided we're going to come in leaner for the OCB shows. I had 4 weeks, plenty of time to get leaner. So we dropped back down to 1700 immediately following the April show and kept cardio the same. Well, it was working. It wasn't working fast enough, and we only had 4 weeks. So I was like, okay, we really need to see changes. So I dropped from May 8th to May 14th. So this is 6 days, it was all 6 days total. I dropped down to 1600 calories on my low days. Remember, keeping the long run and day before long run calories higher at that 19 and that 22 to 23. But I dropped down to 16. That was hard. I'm not gonna lie. 16 was really difficult for me just from a hunger, and I like to eat. So it was just a little tricky. It took a lot of thinking, but it worked. I did it. It was 6 days and I dropped weight. That's when I hit my lowest, which was the 120s. And then we moved that back up through the end of prep to 19, because again, a lot of the feedback I had heard about OCB and how they like their bikini girls to look, and then looking at some OCB pros when they won their pro card and stuff, like looking through that, they're a little bit softer than what NPC likes. So a little bit more body fat is essentially. So I was like, okay, I don't want to get too lean. And that was a debate that I had with myself. I'm like, should I keep cutting? Should we stop? I was looking really good. I was really happy with my physique going into the OCB shows. I looked really good. I was really excited for it. So you can see I'll pop up my pre-show check-in photos, like with myself, how I was looking before the show. And I was looking really good. I was very excited. I was like, yeah, I am ready to kill it. I was a little hesitant. I was like, I could come in leaner. And like I said, we toyed around with the idea of coming in leaner. Hindsight is 2020. We'll get to that though. But we decided to stay where I was at, because I could have continued to cut for another week. And then I definitely could have even cut going into the Kansas City show, coming in at my leanest at the Omaha show, but I chose not to. So those last few weeks, or last couple weeks of prep, I was not cutting. I was at maintenance, and I did keep my cardio the same up until peak weeks, of course. So we ended at the lowest calories is at 1600, and cardio really mostly stayed the same. We added in the half mile for the runs and added in the walk. So it wasn't outrageous, but it wasn't nothing. So I was doing 2 days for cardio. Just the second one wasn't very hard, but it still was time consuming. Like I still had to go to the gym and walk for 40 minutes or 60 minutes. And I had to do it away from, I didn't have to, but I had decided I was going to do it separate from my workouts and separate from my cardio. So I couldn't like just do all three together. So it was a 2-a-day type of thing to break that up. So that's kind of a rundown of all the numbers. And like I said, I was down about, depends where you count my high and where you count like my low stage weight, about 13 to 15-ish pounds down in that 20 weeks. There was a lot of days where I had diet breaks. There was a couple weekends where I took 2 days worth of diet breaks. So really all in all, I probably dieted for, let's see, any peak week. So that's 3 weeks right there I wasn't dieting. And the week or so before the April show, I wasn't dieting. And then I probably had 4 weekends where I wasn't in a deficit. So I'd say for 4 to 5 weeks of that 20 weeks, I was not in a deficit. So really it ended up being 16 weeks of dieting with some breaks in there, and then the easy peak weeks, because I ate food going into peak week, which was lovely. So I felt great going into the show. And my peak week, all we did, so kind of we'll jump to those really fast. My peak week, what we did was just bumped up carbs. That was it. I carefully, but I didn't go crazy. I didn't do no 400 carbs or anything like that. I think I got up to like I think like 270 was my highest. So like I said, no 400 carbs. I didn't want to get bloated. I didn't want to blow out my waistline. And I thought I was like, before I even carbed up, I thought I was looking great. So I'm like, why change anything? Like, I would be happy to step on stage looking how I look right now. We didn't want to mess with it. So the only thing we changed was a little bit more carbs just to make sure I was nice and full on stage, which I do think I was looking pretty bubbly and pretty good on stage. So yeah, like this photo that I'm going to tell Joe to put up here is one of my favorite. Like, I feel like I look so bubbly and full and great. I just freaking love it. But okay, so, all right, let's go into the shows and how I feel like I did. And then we'll talk about how I feel like prepping myself. Well, let's talk about how I feel like prepping myself was. I thought it was fine. It was hard. There was definitely times where I argued with myself, and the hardest part was when I needed to make changes or like cut calories or up cardio. And I would go back and forth with myself, like, am I jumping the gun? Am I being too lenient on myself? Should I have acted quicker? Did I do too much? So that was a harder part for it. And then peak week was definitely a challenge because it was hard to look at it objectively and not from my own head. So that made it a little bit difficult as well. So just kind of the mind games and trying to stay objective was the hardest part. Justin helped me with that. He's like, well, what would you do if it was a client? Sometimes that would help, sometimes it wouldn't, because I'm like, well, maybe this is what I do, but I don't know. Like, maybe I'm messing with my own head. I don't know. But that was the hardest part. What I did like, though, was I got to stay running. Most coaches would not have wanted me running. And like, even though it's up to me, ultimately, they wouldn't have been happy about it and really discouraged it, thinking it would really hurt my chances of, I don't know, keeping my legs full, keeping my glutes full, which definitely wasn't a problem. I didn't really lose size in my glutes or my legs. And I was recovering well. Like I said, I planned my calories around my run, and we'll hop into that in 1 second about the calorie thing. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a challenge, and I would say it would be very difficult if you didn't know what you were doing. Maybe I would have had better results with a coach because they would have made the harder choices faster, or they would have been like, no, Sam, you're definitely not lean enough going into the show. But I don't know. So I can't say I'm fairly happy with how I prepped myself. I feel like I did a good job. I kept in a lot of compound lower body, which I feel like my previous prep, I lost some size in my legs because I wasn't doing many compound exercises. So I feel like my quads got smaller. I feel like I maintained size in my legs really well and my glutes while dieting down. I don't feel like I had to diet hard. This prep was not a grind. Every prep is different though, so that might have nothing to do with me. I just took a long time off. I took a long off season. It was over 2 years. My body was in a good place to diet. I mean, really. So what I did like about prepping myself was when I needed / wanted a diet break, I could just have one. So like I said, there was a couple weekends where I went out to eat. I had a bit of a diet break for a day, maybe 2 days. 2 days didn't happen very often, but a day did, here and there. And I really liked that I could be like, you know what, mentally I want like just a day, and I did notice that physically it did help as well. So that's something I want to keep in mind. It could be a number of things. Could be I was feeling a little fatigued in the extra food. My body's like, woohoo, we have food. And so then the following subsequent days, I had more energy. So I was moving around more, who knows? But I do feel like it really benefited me quite a bit. And I really enjoyed that. I liked that I could keep my running in. I liked that I could pick exercises I liked and do what I wanted. But I have done preps before. I have done shows. and I'm also a prep coach. So I know what I'm doing and I know the whys behind the decisions I was making, the exercise I was choosing, the foods I was choosing when I was deciding to make cuts, add cardio. I knew the why behind everything. And I feel like if you were brand new, I would never suggest coaching yourself. Would I do it again? I am not sure. We'll see what happens the next prep. I'm not sure. But yeah, so one thing I did learn that I was a big fan of, like, a flexible meal plan, which I did in 2021, which was fine. It was totally fine. But I did a more flexible dieting approach for this one, where I just kind of hit my calories and hit my protein, but that morphed into a macros approach. So I realized as I went through prep how much more helpful it was to pay attention to all of them. Now, I would not recommend that for just regular dieting, normal life. I don't think you need to get so detailed as long as you're eating enough. But as I was prepping, I realized I needed to pay attention to all my numbers because, one, you want to hit your protein, but two, I was really low in fats. If I didn't pay attention, I could get really, really low in fat, like 20 some grams. There's no reason for that. So I actually had to start paying attention to make sure I was getting enough fat and not letting protein and carbs take over. And so then I really started to pay attention. Then I started to pay attention to, like, okay, well, where are my carbs at? Where am I feeling good? And I went back and looked at previous preps. And previous preps, my carbs were really low and my fats were much higher. So like 60, 70, 80 grams of fats, and then like under 200, under 150 carbs. Whereas when I was prepping myself, my fat stayed around 30 to 40, maybe 45 on high days. And my carbs stayed pretty close to 200 until we started to get lower. And then they came down a bit, got under 200, but I never got under 150. And I felt so much better this prep. I don't feel like I got prep brain. I didn't feel like I was quite as crabby, still crabby sometimes, but I don't feel like I was quite as crabby. I didn't have big energy crashes like I have in past preps where I just felt awful. And it wasn't awful the whole prep. It was just like sometimes, but I didn't feel like I had to grind. Now those 1600 calorie days were harder. I was hungry. But so I didn't do any extremely low carb. I didn't even do any extremely low carb going into my peak week. So sometimes see people like deplete and then pump up carbs, which there's strategy behind that and there's reasons for it. I didn't do it because I was happy with how I looked and I'm like, let's not mess with a good thing. But yeah, so I changed my mind. I do feel like, so now for my clients, I'm paying closer attention and I'm actually giving them more macros rather than just broader goals. And then as we go, and a lot of it was, so I knew where carbs were at heading into peak week. So that was like, I don't know how many carbs I need to pump up because I didn't know where I was at. And so I started paying much closer attention. So a lot of that came down to just so I could nail peak week, I needed to know what those numbers were. And I also made sure my carbs were higher around my runs. So higher output days, I wanted carbs to fuel my workouts. So Fridays before my run, I would have higher carb. I would make sure it was at 200 or more. And then obviously Saturdays I would have higher carb because calories were higher and I could to replenish the carbs that I used during the 9-mile run. So I do feel like the macro based approach is useful during prep, not regular dieting. That someone will still have to try and convince me on that, but I think it's just too detailed for just regular dieting. But yeah, so that was something I changed my mind on as coaching myself. So that was fun. So now all my clients get to experience that now. Okay, so let's go into how the shows went. So my April 20th show, that was here in Des Moines. It was an NPC show. I did the Masters, Novice, and Open categories. So I did 3 categories. Masters, 35 plus, novices, you've never placed first in any class, in any federation ever. That's what novice means. And then open's just open. That's what everyone can do no matter what. So how that panned out is, it was a really small show. The NPC splits their groups up into 1-inch height classes for some reason, even when it's not necessary. Like I know they do that for national shows, but because national shows are big. They're like, you split it up by height class, like 1 inches, and there's still like 7 to 10 girls per class. What happened here was they split it up like that. There was 3 people in Masters, including me. There was 3 people in my novice class, including me, and in my open, it was me alone. There was nobody else. It was just me. That was a waste of money. Competing against myself. Cool, I guess. So what I ended up getting was first in masters. Yay, my first. I got simultaneously first and last in open because I was the only person. So obviously I got first, but that doesn't really count since I was alone. So it was basically a wash. It was really honestly a waste of time, a waste of money to pay the freaking however much it is to enter because I didn't get to compete against anybody. And then in my novice, I got 2nd out of 3. So yeah, I don't know. My first though. So I was super excited. So technically that qualified me for nationals. So I was nationally qualified in the NPC. I'm not going to NPC nationals. I'm not big enough. But yeah, in that show, I was really unhappy with my look. I didn't like it. So put some show photos up here. My posing, originally I thought it was fine like right after the show. And then I really started to dive in and look. I got nervous. I like sat into my hip too much. I turned too much toward the judges. Wasn't super happy with it. I don't think the tan turned out because we did the pro tan ourselves. Hair and makeup was fine. I did my own hair and makeup, which I was happy with. But I just wasn't lean enough. So if you look at this back pose, like there's just no definition in my legs. There's no definition in my glutes. I look soft and mushy, and I didn't like my look. I thought I looked a little thicker. I don't think I picked the right foods for the day of and the day before the show. So I think it kind of bloated me a little bit, blowing out my waistline a tiny bit. I just had like random foods. I ate a little bit of candy, like pump up candy, and bad decisions. I don't think I made the right decisions with food on that one either. But that one just overall, it was a good learning experience. So I could come into the next shows better. So the next show was May 25th, 4 weeks later. I came in leaner, came in about 2-ish pounds leaner, 2 to 3, depending on what day. 2 to 3-ish pounds leaner to the Battle of Kansas City. And I entered Masters, 35 plus, and Open. I could not do Novice anymore because I had gotten first in that Masters 35 plus at NPC. So remember, Novice is only if you've never placed first anywhere in any class in any federation. So no more Novice for me ever again. So I just did Masters and Open. So I just had the 2 in Kansas City. And Masters, there were 7 people in the group, including me, and everyone looked great. So we'll put some pictures up. Oh, I probably should put for the Iowa one too. There probably will be. So here is my full class. There's 7 of us. It was pretty good competition. They kept us up there walking back and forth, if you watch the show day video, for like 10 minutes. That is insanely long. No other class was up there that long. I didn't see anyone else out there that long. And they kept switching us around. So it was a difficult one for them to choose. And then I ended up getting first. So I earned my OCB Pro card, and I was in disbelief. I was so excited. And honestly, when they were calling, I probably talked about this in the other video, but when I was backstage and they were calling the people out, and they didn't call me for the top 4, so like the 5th through 2nd, I'm like, I didn't even place. I'm like, gosh dang it. I'm like, I didn't even place. And then I got called out for the win, and it was just really cool. I don't know how to explain it. I'm glad they didn't ask me to talk or anything, because I don't know what I would have said. I was like, it's really neat. But I worked hard for it. I put in the effort, I put in the time, and I was really happy with my physique. And then we'll go on. I'll talk about how I think my physique and everything looked in a little bit. So, and then I did Open, and there was 6 people, including myself, in that class, and that was also a competitive class, and I got 2nd. So I did not get the Open Pro card. I got the Masters Pro card. And I knew it was going to be tough. I knew it was going to be a challenge because the girl that got first was a lot leaner than me. And I was like, well, it depends. Do they want leaner or do they want softer? They wanted leaner. So I was like, well, drat. But I still got my pro card, still an OCB Pro. Woo! So happy. So that was really exciting. The show was super fun. A lot of cool people backstage. The people that ran the show backstage were really nice. There was a dog I got to pet. And I think it was just great. It was a good show. I did my own hair and my makeup. I was a little not happy with my makeup. What happened was with the tan, they sprayed my face one spray before I could like think to say, no, don't. So don't let them spray your face. And I think that muddied up the makeup because I was not happy with the makeup, and I had different lashes than I did at the next show. And I liked my makeup look a lot at Omaha, but didn't love the Kansas City makeup look. It wasn't terrible, but I wasn't in love with it. It looked muddy and kind of dark. But yeah, so it's a great show. I had so much fun. I would 100% recommend doing it. And I loved how they did it. They did all debut, all novice, all master. So it went like figure, physique, whatever order. So physique, figure, wellness, bikini, debut. And then they moved over to figure, physique, wellness, bikini, novice, or whatever. So if you were in multiple categories, say you did debut and novice and bikini, you didn't have to go out back to back to back if you did like novice and open. So you didn't have to continuously go out. You got a break in between. I thought that was really cool. I've never seen a show run like that. And it was, I definitely, I don't know if you could get away with it maybe at bigger shows, but the show was the size, they were playing to their size and they could get away with it. And I thought it was excellent. Stage was nice. It wasn't super hard to walk on or anything, which was great. I was really happy with my individual walk. Sorry, I had to think. And got to listen to, you know, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Everyone really liked it. I got a laugh. When everyone laughed, I got a little self-conscious though. I think I had a ton of makeup on. You couldn't see my face turn red, but that did throw off my groove and then I rushed through it, which didn't happen in Omaha. So yes. But yeah, so pro card won. And so what happened is for Nebraska, I was already signed up for Masters and Open. OCB has a weird rule. It's the rule. I don't know. I didn't make it. But if you win a pro card in Masters, you can still compete in amateur Open shows, unless I went and competed in a pro show. So I won my OCB pro card in Masters, which means I can compete in any pro show if I want to. But until I do that, I can still compete in amateur Open. I can't compete in Masters, I can't do novice, but I can do Open. So I did. I went to Omaha to compete in the Open. I was already signed up, already had my tan scheduled, we already had the hotel booked, and it was a week later. And I'm like, well, let's just do it. So I was only in the Open category in Omaha. So I went to do that. I was even happier with my physique. I don't know, I was really excited. I was really happy with everything. And so I just did Open. There was 4 of us in there. Put the pictures up there so you can take a peek at what we're looking like if they're not already up there. And I took first. I was backstage, and the two, like the people running the show were back there, like sending us out and directing. And it was me and the girl that ended up getting second. We were standing back there, and I was like, oh my God. I was tense. And when they called her to go second, she walked out, and the guy next to me was like, you cut the tension with a knife. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I was so nervous. And the reason is I was more nervous for this show, and I was more excited to get first at this show than the May show, even though I won my pro card. Getting first in my class. Like I said, I've never gotten a first before, and I've officially had 1, 2, 3 firsts now. And what it was is getting first here after the Kansas City show. It was like, okay, Kansas City wasn't a fluke. I didn't just get lucky. My physique is better. My physique is good. Like, my physique is competitive. And getting first in that Open, because there was a girl that looked great, and like even Justin said from the audience, he's like, yeah, it was going to be tough. He's like, I wasn't sure. And it was confirmation that it wasn't a fluke, that it wasn't, I just got lucky. It was, yes, your physique is competitive. You deserved to get that first in Kansas City, and you worked for it and you earned it. And so it was really even more exciting to get the first at this show in the class. After that, I got to compete in the overall. So there was 3 height classes, because it was a little bit more bikini girls than the Kansas City show. And so there was 3 of us in the overall. I did not take the overall, so I I did not get my open pro card yet. So still can compete in amateur shows in the open category in the OCB, but I still have a pro card. I know it's a little confusing, but that's the rules. So, you know, that's what they are. And what it was is the girl was, I mean, I don't know for sure, but like looking at pictures, she wasn't a lot leaner, but she was a little bit leaner and she was bigger. So she had more glute, more hamstring. She just had more legs and a little, I feel like upper bodies were comparable though. She had a little bit more glute and a little bit more leg. I think it was tough though. They walked us a lot. They switched us around a lot. I don't think it was like a clear cut. I think it was competitive. It just, I happened not to take it. So yeah, I don't know, that was fun. I'd never done an overall before because in Kansas City, the Masters was just one group. And I took it, got first, so I got the pro card, and I didn't get first in open, so I didn't compete for the overall in the open, obviously in Kansas City. But it was really fun to do the open. Like, it was stressful. I was like, oh my gosh, like it was exciting though. So yeah, that's the shows. And my thoughts are, overall, the season went great. I was not happy with the April show, but you know what? I learned from it. I made the changes, and that's why it's good to do multiple shows so you can make changes. And I got my pro card. I got a bunch of first places. It was a great season. And looking at my physique, so I want to talk about it a little bit. I took over 2 years off in between my 2021 prep and this one. And I spent that time really focused on building my upper body. Main goal was to maybe my main goal was to build my shoulders and arms. My sub goals were hopefully build a little bit of glutes and a little bit of back, but my concern was shoulders and arms because that was always my feedback. And if you look at these pictures, you can see I succeeded. I put in the work, my upper body. I was looking at the pictures and I'm just like, that's me. Like, I did that. I built those shoulders. I built those arms. I put on that muscle. I was always very self-conscious of my upper body, my arms, my whole life. Like, noodle arms, my arms are too long. I mean, they're still pretty long and they're still not like freaking hugely jacked, but they're looking good. I was like on stage, my shoulders looked popping. They looked bubbly. My arms looked great. My biceps, I don't know. If you look at those pictures, look at that difference. And I was just so happy with my physique. I thought I looked really good. I was really happy. Now, does that mean it was perfect? No, I think I could and should have come in leaner. I think I should have gotten down another few pounds and seen what I look like, because as you can see, even in the OCB shows where I'm looking freaking great, there's still no tie-in, there's no hamstring definition in my back pose. And Bikini's one from the back. So you need to have an impressive back pose, and I don't have it. I have a good shape from the back. I don't have an impressive back pose though, because there's no tie-in, there's no hamstring definition, and that hurt me. I think that's what cost me the overall in both. I think that's what cost me the first in Kansas City. I know the leanness is what cost me, or not being lean enough. And I think I could have had it in Omaha if I would have had a little bit more, and that would have, like, so even though I was a little smaller, if I was a little bit leaner, I think that would have put me over the edge. And I just wasn't lean enough. That's it. I think I should have done about three-ish, maybe 4-ish pounds leaner going into the shows. But live and learn. I still was really happy with my physique, really happy with the progress I made. And I'm really proud of the work I put in over the last 2 years to see those changes. And then having a smart prep, going into the show intelligently, and then just executing. And I was really happy with how my posing turned out. I practiced a lot, tried to make it smooth, make it pretty. I tweaked a lot. I really switched my front pose to be more profile so we could see a little bit more glute. I really want to get that hamstring. So in that profile, I have a little hamstring, like a little hamstring pop when I'm in my front pose as well. And yeah, so overall, I think it went great. I was really happy with the season. I was sad to call it. We debated on doing one more show in July, and for a few different reasons, we decided against it. One of them being finances. We realized how much each show was costing us with hotels, travel, entering, tan. Oh, that was another thing. I did do the show tans for the OCB shows. Great decision. I'm not going to say there's anything wrong necessarily with pro tan, but I probably moving forward will just do the show promoter tan. The reason I had switched originally was I had a really bad experience with one of the shows I did go with the show tan. And so I moved to pro tan and it was fine, but then this, I don't know. So we're probably just gonna stick with the promoter tan. I did do my hair and makeup. Oh, and for the Omaha one, I loved my makeup. I did it brighter. I picked different lashes. So my Kansas City show, I had big, heavy lashes, and I thought it made my eyes look dark and like kind of shut and just dark and kind of hooded almost. And for the Omaha show, I bought just like half ones. So they just went like on the outside of my eyelid, my eyelashes. So it like made up here a little more fancy, but it didn't make over here look heavy. And I did lighter colors on my eye. So much better, so much better. I went with straight hair. Everyone really liked the straight hair. I learned to curl my hair. My friend Hope came over and showed me how to curl my hair, and then I decided not to. For the first show, it was stressing me out. I was just feeling too stressed to curl my hair, do my makeup, do the tan, and I was like, and then it looked good on stage. And so for the OCB shows, we decided to keep it straight, and I thought it looked really good. That's not to say I wouldn't curl it in the future, but I was really happy with the straight hair. I thought it looked really good, especially because it's really long now. But yeah, so judges' feedback. I have this right here. Judges' feedback is pretty much exactly what I expected. So first, what Justin and I were thinking when we looked at my pictures was my upper body's come along a lot. Like, we didn't think that was lacking too much. I feel like I can always use more size in shoulders and arms, maybe a little bit more width in my back. But our big thing was we need to get the glutes and the hamstrings bigger. Glutes and hamstrings, glutes and hamstrings. So that way I don't have to get as lean to show that tie-in or to have it start to show up. And I feel like I could get a little bit more upper glute, just more glute all over. And then, like I said, more hamstring, so it's not as hard to get that definition. More muscle, you don't have to be as low body fat for it to show. And so that is my big focus. Shoulders, of course, but glutes and hamstrings are much bigger focus than they were the last 2 years. Like I said, last 2 years, it was mostly just maintaining and hopefully maybe get a little bit, but the main thing was upper body, which it worked. So yeah, so judges' feedback. So I have it right here on my computer in front of me, so you're gonna see me looking down. Let's see, so Kansas City, I'm just gonna kind of read what they wrote me. They were really good about feedback. I mean, not all the judges sent feedback, but the ones that did actually seemed like they thought about it rather than just like a copy and paste responsive. Leaner glutes and shoulders. So overall, you looked phenomenal and brought a strong competitive package to stage. Posing was on par. That's nice. And good stage presence, which one of my goals is to always look like I'm having fun and happy to be there. So I want to have a nice big smile on stage. I want to look like, yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm having fun. Like, I decided to do this because I enjoy it, and I always want to look like that on stage. I hate when I see people go out and they look pissed off to be on stage. I don't know, like, smile, like practice smiling. I know you're nervous, but when you're practicing posing, just smile with it. And just make it like when you hit your pose, your face is just like, oh, when I do this position with myself, it means smile. And it becomes so automatic that you don't even have, like, you want your posing to be so automatic, but you want that smile to pop on automatically as well. So like when I hit my front pose, it's almost hard not to smile because it's like front pose means to smile and be happy. And so I was really happy that I have nice stage presence, and posing was on par because I practiced a lot. And they said symmetry and level of conditioning was great. So this judge thought my conditioning was spot on. So this is where you're going to see some of that variance in bikini as we read through these judges' feedback. So conditioning just means leanness, how lean I am. So, and they said, continue what you're doing. She said, maybe a bit more conditioning though, give me a bit of an edge on stage. And that's exactly what I was thinking. I think being a little bit leaner would have made me look a little bit more impressive. So she thought conditioning was fine, but could have been a little bit leaner to give me that edge. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. Okay, judge number 2. This one is all, this judge like really went all out. Super great guy. Let's see. He saw me twice on stage. He was a judge at Omaha and the Missouri show. So that was kind of cool. Said I brought a great physique and made it tough to judge. Positives. Overall, great physique. Shape, symmetry, and balance is great. Your stage presence was also great. Taper is great. I had the right conditioning. So again, he thinks my conditioning was where it needs to be. My top had muscle. but wasn't overpowering. So usually it was always like, you never have enough in the shoulders. So that was really cool to hear. Like top had muscle, but not overpowering, which is really good. That comes to the balance and symmetry. Core was tight, glutes were round, delts had some shape, legs matched back to front. Perfect. For improvement, honestly, I have a great symmetrical physique. For the lower half, I would focus on building glutes to get more depth and into the hamstrings. So glutes and hamstrings. With that being said, you do have some sweep in inner thigh, so bring out the hammies a little more. So that means inner thigh was kind of like probably adductors. So hamstrings, we need the hamstrings to be bigger. Upper half, keep doing what you're doing with the delts, arms, lats. These are all good. Could have a little more size overall, and that will draw out an undeniable athletic physique. Found my physique and stage presence very competitive and balanced overall. Keep growing and keep shining. Hope to see you at more shows. So I thought that was really cool. So again, glutes, hamstrings. He thought my conditioning was great. He actually didn't say anything about getting leaner. He said more hamstring, more depth, which basically means we want to see a little more tie-in, which would have also could be a little bit leaner. But the comment on my upper half being great, that's nice, that it didn't need to be, that it was good sized. Music to my ears. All right, we got one more most of them got back to me from Kansas City. Let's see. I have a great shape for the bikini. Posing and stage presence was really good. In my back pose, I could arch a little bit more to get my glutes, and front pose, twist a little more so you can see more of my delt. I think I was back just a tiny bit, so I should have been a little bit more forward. So great feedback on the posing. And this judge says, come in more conditioned for your next show. You have great shape, just continue on fine tuning by adding size to delts and glutes, always. And in the end, for my open class in Missouri, she said for her, it came all down to conditioning. So as you see, two other judges thought my conditioning was spot on. She was like, you could have been leaner, and that's what it came down to. So that's where the subjectivity comes in. I think I could have been leaner too. So I think it would have given me that edge and helped me stand out more, because the other girl was really lean. Like you could see good tie-ins. And so that would make me look extra soft. So yeah. And then last one, great stage presence, great posing, great overall structure, perfect for a bikini. And then just working on coming in a little bit fuller. And in this sense, fuller, I'm assuming just means bigger, because they don't really know what I look like flat versus full. So in this sense, fuller just means I need to be bigger, which I knew. So I'm going to rock the pro stage when I hit it, and looking forward to seeing me on stage. So judges' feedback was precisely what Justin and I thought. Bigger in the glutes and hamstrings specifically. Bring the upper body up just to be bigger, because it's not always good to be bigger, but there's by no means I'm not even close to being too big. And come in more conditioned so I look more impressive. But loved this judge's feedback. I mean, like one of them, I read the whole thing to you, but I mean, it was like a whole page long, which was really cool. It felt like they really took the time to answer and like actually give feedback, which was cool. So yeah, overall great season. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I think that's everything. I think one of the biggest things that made this prep so successful in the season was I took a long enough off season and stayed in check and stuck to my goals. So while it's hard to like keep that focus for years, so like I said, I took over 2 years off, and during that 2 years, it was a lot of shoulders. So a lot of shoulders, a lot of workouts. I did 5 workouts a week for 2 years. I also half trained. I mean, I'm not going to give up running, but I kept my eye on the prize. I'm like, I want to look different when I get on stage next. I want to look better. And that pushed me forward. Were there days where I kind of like slogged it in the gym and stuff? Of course, but most of it, no. I pushed, and I didn't continuously try to diet, but I also didn't go crazy. So I only gained, like I said, about 14 pounds on the higher end of what's like probably ideal, but that was really easy for me to maintain. And since I was in such a long off season, that makes a difference as well. So it depends how long your off season is as well. But I took plenty long. I will say taking time off, taking the right amount of time off was key. I had enough time to build enough muscle to be different. I had enough time to get normal with all of the food stuff. Hormones probably don't take like 2 years to normalize or anything, but it was more than enough time. Like I took enough time where when I was going to diet again, my body and my mind, even more important, were ready to diet again and ready to make it hard. And I think that's part of the reason this prep went so well is I hadn't dieted hard. There was a couple mini cuts in there just to keep everything in check, but overall I kept it in check. I didn't have to lose 25, 30, 40 pounds to get stage lean. I probably could have lost 20 pounds, and that probably would have put me at lean enough, which would mean I probably could stay closer to like 135, 130 this off season. We'll see. That could be a harder number for me to maintain, so I have to figure out, like, is that couple extra pounds worth if it's going to be a lot of extra work for me to maintain? I don't know, but I think that's why I had such a good in season, is because my off season was so strong. I didn't gain a bunch of extra body fat. I continued to lift. I continued to do my cardio. I stayed in shape. I didn't go crazy with, like, I went out to eat. I enjoyed myself a lot all the time. I had snacks, I ate chips, like candy, but I also ate a ton of food that was still just like healthy. I ate mostly healthy. I tracked the whole time. Like, I was tracking the whole off season. And so it wasn't jarring to go into prep. The only thing that changed when I started prep was my calories dropped. That was it. That was the only thing that really changed, and I wasn't going out to eat. That's it. So it wasn't a jarring thing. So I was like, I don't know, I think my 2.5-2-ish years of off season done well made this prep so much easier. And so moving forward, my plan is we're going to take a decently long off season. It's going to be shorter unless so the plan right now is I would compete in about a year, a little under a year. So maybe 10 months, which is a really short off season. So we'll see. I have to be there mentally. I have to be excited to want to diet. I have to be excited to do a show. Otherwise I won't do it. As of right now, it feels like I will be, because I'm going to look even better. I'm going to be even more competitive. I have the opportunity to go to the Yorton, which is like the Olympia of the OCB. And my goal moving forward to do an amateur open show to test the waters, see how I do there. Depending on that, then that would decide what our future goals would be. But yeah, so decently long off season, looking maybe to compete in the late summer next year. It kind of depends when shows are, where they're at, how I'm feeling, how I'm looking. But tentatively 2025, I will be doing a show, not until mid to late 2025. But yeah, so right now we're going to be building. I did actually hire a coach, a hybrid coach, to help me with my running and lifting. So we're going to see how that goes. I just didn't want to have to think about it anymore. Since prepping, I'm like, my brain needs a break. I'm like, I just want someone else to do my programming for a while. So we'll be doing that for the next 3 to 4 months. And then we'll see. Maybe I'll continue on, or maybe I'll transfer back to me doing my own once I have done my half marathon race. Main focus is still bikini, but I want to run. I like to run. What can I say? And then after the fall races, it would transition back to maintenance mode for running, and let's build for the next however many months it might be before I would start prep. So I don't know if I want to start prep in late spring, early spring, or what. So that's going to be kind of up in the air. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm super excited. This was such a great season. It was the most fun I've ever had doing bikini, and I am super excited for this fall because I have a couple clients doing shows. So that I'm actually almost more excited for that, I think. But yeah. Okay, this is a really long video. I talked for like an hour. I'll let you guys go. If you have any questions or anything, please let me know. But yeah, it was a great season, and I can't wait to do it again next year. Yay! Okay,